lives are so affected by Hurricane Harvey and its aftermath, and we pray that help can come, and can come quickly. I'm Albert Mobley.
Revolutionizing the way people treat people in business. The Experience Pros, America's home for positive business talk.
Welcome back to the Experience Pros Radio Show. Thank you for taking time out of your day to join us for hours. Very nice indeed. We're helping you get your business right. One of the things that we talk about on occasion is, do you know if people, your cohorts at work or your prospects across the table, are you aware of their integrity quotient? Are they telling you the truth? It's hard sometimes, and maybe I'll say it's hard most times to know whether or not someone's telling you the truth, especially if they're in a sales pitch mode, because they'll tell you that the sky is red, make you check. So how do you know if someone is lying? Well, Bill Murphy Jr. wrote an article that is interesting. 10 tells and clues ranked in ascending order of reliability, he says, for whether or not people are fibbing, whether they're telling you the truth or not. And if you've got some ideas or things that you've heard and you're watching by way of Facebook Live, hello, thank you very much. Share this video, if you will. But if you're participating, I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you, what do you rely on to whether or not to discern or ascertain whether or not somebody is telling the truth? Is it the shifty eyes? Is it the sweaty palms? I don't know. Be interested. Let's see what Bill Murphy has to say about this. He says, if you're suspicious that someone isn't telling the truth, can you look at the person in the eyes and tell? Well, let's try. Here are what might be the facts about lying. Can you tell which one, if any, is a lie? The average person hears between 10 and 200 lies per day. Strangers lie to each other 3 times within the first 10 minutes of meeting on average. College students lie to their mothers in 1/5 of all interactions. According to Pamela Meyer, and she's the author of the book Lie Spotting and presenter of a TED Talk with more than 16 million views, those are all true. The average person really does hear between 10 and 200 lies a day. Strangers lie to each other 3 times within the first 10 minutes of meeting on average, and college students lie to their mothers 20% of the time. So, how do you know? What can you look for? And I'll tell you this right now. Take some of these things with a grain of salt. Remember, they're in ascending order of believability and or reliability. But maybe taken as a whole, they will kind of balance themselves out. Number 1, look for inconsistencies. We tend to think the liars are the ones who can't keep the story straight, but we'll list this so-called tell first and thus least reliable because there are other explanations for changing stories. It's simply too easy and deceptive to rely on inconsistency as a proxy for deceit. In fact, most truthful people, when they're asked to retell a story several times, will remember additional details each time, which means the stories will change. I've always thought about this when watching Law and Order or CSI or something like that. You tell the story over and over and over again, and inevitably you're going to remember more detail. And if you ask me to tell the story over again, it's because you maybe, in my mind, you didn't hear what you were looking for, so I'll just continue to bring as much as I can to the story, which could be inconsistent or at least interpreted inconsistent, but does not necessarily equal a lie. Suspicious expressions. There are some tells that can suggest a lack of veracity, including blushing, blinking, flared nostrils, fake smiles. Notice them, remember them, pay attention. Here comes the caveat. But don't read too much into them. I agree with that. Don't read I blush, I blink, I flare my nostrils, and I smile fakely from time to time. They might be indications, but it's simply too much room for false positives. to go by expressions alone. How about this one? Repeating the question. Maybe they're ensuring that you heard correctly, or maybe they're stalling for time, or else they're trying to unpack what you've asked. If they're doing it, though, note it and then weigh it with some of the others on the list. Unnecessary superlatives. We're working our way down a list of tells about whether or not someone is lying. Absolutely. Tremendous. Literally. There are times when these words are appropriate, but they're the exception to the rule. People who insist on peppering their speech with them might be trying to bolster their argument or distract you. I absolutely, literally think that's ridiculous. We use absolutely all the time because it's a part of our culture in saying literally better than yes. So, again, weigh it with what you want. A desire to shut everything down. So you ask a question, they don't want to talk about it. That's interesting. I am a big proponent of transparency. Someone asks a question, let's answer it. We may not like the answer. We can take the answer and the conversation will go whatever direction, but definitely go and don't try to shut that down. Qualifying language. People are being honest. Sometimes I like to remind you that people in general aren't always honest. How? By using phrases like in all candor, or if I'm being completely truthful, or if I had to swear on a stack of Bibles. If you're qualifying it in that direction, I don't want to lie, or I won't lie. If you won't lie, you don't have to finish that sentence. Flourishes in the word no. As my colleague, as a colleague, Justin Barreso points out, key tells could be when people say no and look in a different direction. They say no, or they close their eyes. They say no after hesitating. They say no and stretch it over a long period of time. Or they say no in a sing-song manner. Force them to say the word no to an oblique or open-ended question. Did you file a false tax expense report? And see where that goes. Failing to remember details upon retelling. Once somebody remembers a detail, it is very often difficult to go backwards. You don't put the toothpaste back in the tube. Inventing new details is remembering. Be careful with my words there. Not inventing new details, but coming up with new details in the conversation is more likely to be remembering. Failing to remember those details, that's challenging. Inappropriate emotions. You're looking for incongruity. Terrible news, but a joking attitude. Supposedly good news, but overly tempered enthusiasm. And then this one, contempt. If someone is angry with you for asking the question, they're probably going to lie to you at the end of it. We'll be back right after the top of the hour news. You're listening to the Experience Pros Radio Network, and we appreciate you for tuning in to America's Positive Business Talk.
The Experience Pros, revolutionizing the way people treat people in business.